welcome everybody, and thank you for being here. You're going to see the light shut off a little bit so that folks in the hall can see this. Let's people in the back. Can you actually see the screen, or is it hard? Okay, is there anyone? Raise your hand if you cannot. And if you do, we'll tell you come sit in the front row. Okay. All right. Okay. Just a few reminders. Welcome, welcome. We will be here in this hall going forward. Unless you hear another announcement, but we will not be in the gym as the Maui Invitational prepares for their event. So that's partly why we're down in the social hall downstairs. But welcome everyone. Please consider others and silence your phones. And if you need to have a conversation with someone, please take it outside and have a nice, healthy conversation without other people giving you a dirty look. And that'll be a good way to start the night. We have a very full agenda tonight, but before we begin, I'm going to hand this mic over to Uncle here to offer us a pule before the start of our meeting. A little bit different setup tonight, but Uncle, I see you here.
Thank you. Lord, thank you for this safe place that you have provided us with, that we may gather and exchange thoughts and gather information that we need to understand the process and how the makeup of the cleanup that we have reached thus far. Lord, we thank you for everything that you have provided us with. Thank you for the organizations, the people that you have put on the ground to help us to come this far in preparation for rebuilding. We thank you for all of the people that are involved. Thank you for our county and our leaders in the county. And Lord, bless them and bless each and every one of us, that you keep us safe and healthy, that we may be able to move forward in this time. And we ask that you go before us after this meeting. Open the roads and keep it safe and healthy, that you bring us home all safe to our loved ones. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you. After a very busy day, it's always good to settle in. So thank you. Mahalo, Uncle Lawrence. I'm Mahina Martin and part of Mayor Bison's team. Tonight we have a full agenda, and as a reminder, these slides are posted on mauirecovers.org. I'm looking at our communications folks to make sure it does go on. And so give us a moment. Usually it shows up, and if you have a hard time seeing the slides while here at the meeting, you can also follow it on Facebook. Mahalo to Akaku, Chiba folks here who are helping us. Just a few reminders, and want to make sure that you know that you should know that we want you to always take care of yourself. So you can scan this QR code or call 808-446-6676 for support at any time, for any reason. Do not hesitate to call or text 988 if you have an 808 phone number. Call 211. Last time we talked about what if you're out of state? How do you reach out to get disaster case management? We got the number. If you're on the continent, please dial 808, ask 2000 to access the same way that you would here if you were to dial 211. Tonight we have a full agenda. We'll be getting from our friends at Army Corps of Engineers an update on the debris clearing. We're also going to hear from Shane Agawa, who heads our county's Department of Environmental Management on our wastewater system. FEMA is here tonight to talk a little bit about modular units and the process and idea of putting it on properties. Maui Humane Society is going to offer information about services to help people with animals, with pets on the west side. And of course, the hot topic lately has been insurance. So we've invited the state insurance commissioner. Commissioner Gordon Ito is here, as well as our friends from United Policy the nonprofit that can help give guidance on handling insurance questions and needs and claims. Before I turn this over to Mayor Bisson, a reminder, next week, Tuesday, is it here? I believe it's here, right? Right here will be the community budget meeting. Annually, there are 9 district community meetings. This is the preliminary step before a proposed budget gets put together and given to the county council for their review. They spend most of the springtime, the first quarter, on budget, but this is where Mayor and his team travels the county. There are 9 meetings. Please come to this meeting, talk about what your priorities are, your particular needs. I know we've been doing it anyway, disaster related, but this is for all of West Maui as well. So whether you're in the burn zone or not, this meeting, this district meeting is for you, for your convenience here in your neighborhood. 5 o'clock, right here. Civic Center gym will be closed for repairs and renovations starting December 1st. All the way to the ending part of 2025. So up to next year, almost same time next year. They're going to be replacing the air conditioning, the gym floor, and doing some electrical work. It's a second phase, so it's just step by step trying to improve the Lahaina gym here. This hall will remain open. So that's why when you hear about meetings or any community use, you can still use the hall, but just not the gym. So don't say you never know, okay? The gym is going to be closed, okay? And that's why. We're happy to say that the Lahaina pool is expected to reopen, as Deputy Director Shane Dudawa had mentioned the other month. The expected reopening is Saturday, October 12th. I know the earlier announcement was October 11th is Friday. You should know that there are some things that we're still working on, but the pool itself is aimed to be open for Saturday for community use. So how about a hand for the Parks Department? Yeah, I know. Everyone's been waiting for that for some time. I'm going to turn this over to Mayor Bisson, who's going to make his way over here with his knee brace on. He can still beat me on a race because he's so much taller.
Maybe an eating race. Aloha, Lahaina Ohana. Thank you folks for being here. Sorry we don't have all that loud noise that we have upstairs when we're doing it here. So quiet, everybody can hear each other. So I just wanted to announce a couple of things. The first thing is I wanted to introduce my new Chief of Staff as of October 1st, Cynthia Lalo. Would you stand, Cynthia? Everybody knows Cynthia? So she's taken over for Leo Kairis, our previous Chief of Staff, who's now our Energy Commissioner at the county. So again, thank you to Cynthia for stepping into that role. The other thing I wanted to talk about is Kahoma Villages. So what's happened is the governor signed an emergency proclamation. He amended it for us this past week, emergency proclamation number 18, which allows us to approve the rebuilding of 24 units at Kahoma Village, 4 buildings, 6 units. There are a few things that they are completing, but they have a contractor. They're ready to do this. A lot of you have been coming to the meetings, are aware. You've been following this progression and how it's gone. So I just wanted to announce tonight, thanks to the governor and his willingness to amend his emergency proclamation, we are able to also move forward on that. And I know that's going to affect a lot of people. So I just wanted to make that announcement. If anyone has any questions about that, you can obviously come and see us off to the side later if you're one of those impacted folks. Forgot to mention thank you to Earl and Kim, part of our advisory team, members here. I should make one other announcement. Archie Kalepa has asked to step down from the advisory team. He is now your commissioner for the Department of Hawaiian Homelands here in Maui County. He was appointed by Cully and the governor, Cully Watson. So Archie is our new director of Hawaiian Homelands, a commissioner. Oh, I should announce our third member of our team walked in. That's Lori Le De Gama. She's in the back, so thank you, Lori. I always want to recognize and point out the advisory team because, there's a lot of work they do behind the scenes with the mayor's office and our teams. Kim Ball almost single-handedly is responsible for that pool opening along with our Parks Department. And I know he's not going to ever take credit for that, but he has been on us from the beginning and making sure that we've done all that right. And he's your advocate for you folks in this room when you're not meeting with us on Wednesdays. He's the guy calling us all the other days of the week. And of course, Earl and Laurie are very active along with Nestor and Archie and of course Kaliko. So I just always thank them because they put a lot of work in for this community. Look forward to seeing you folks at the Budget Committee. Thank you. I'd like to turn this over now. I saw Council Member Tamara Paulton. She is putting her notes together, and I'm sure she has some news to share with you folks as well. Thank you, Lahaina.
Thank you. Not a lot to share. I did want to mahalo Lahaina Strong for putting on their candidate forum Monday night. It's still available to watch online if you guys want to go Akaku, Channel 54 on demand, and 53 as well. And also thank you to them for the NREL Energy Workshop last night. I seen some folks over there at the recovery office in Lahaina. Today, in the committee that I hosted, we had a chance to talk to Mr. Dean Ueno, who is the acting interim chair of CWORM right now. And he shared with us that Kira Kahahani, for the new first deputy, will be sworn in tomorrow. And that they're looking at the stream uses, new and existing water use permit applications together. And for ground sources, although they're looking at them together, they're gonna probably approve existing uses first, and they're looking at beginning that in the next upcoming year. So that's good news that it's on their radar how important that is. We impressed hopefully today upon him that that's one of the things that we need to happen to start approving permanent housing. I did want to share tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. in Councilmember Cook's committee, we will be going over the resolution for R1 usage. The original draft prioritized R1 for construction of housing. I have heard in the community that some people did want to also look at it as fire protection around existing housing. So if you can tune in tomorrow at 9, you can testify online. If you go to mauicounty.us/agendas, click on the water and infrastructure meeting, there's a tiny URL code where you can go and testify online remotely, or you can come into the council chambers at 9, or you can just submit an e-comment to let your voice be heard. So that's pretty much it for today. Thank you.
Aloha. I have a fairly quick update. I did want to start with, I'm sure most of you are aware and probably have friends and family that are being impacted with the storms on the East Coast, back on the mainland. I just wanted to reiterate, USACE has a lot of resources responding to those emergencies, but the recovery field office that's here in the Honolulu district is 100% committed to finishing what we started here. So our recovery field office is here for the long run and not going anywhere anytime soon. So I just ask you keep those folks in your thoughts and prayers. And again, we're 100% committed to finishing what we started. All right, for debris update, real quick, for the commercial properties, we did clear another 17 properties. That takes us to 121 out of 159. So that's 76% little C are cleared. And then we increased the number of properties completed by 15 up to 87 out of 159. So just over 50% completed. So we finished up the Wharf Cinema Center last week, the Hongwanji Mission, the prison, and the 800 block of Front Street. And we're currently on the Lahaina Methodist Church and in the vicinity of the the sugarcane food truck park. They're right by the highway, and a few other properties, the West Maui Senior Center. So we're moving along at a good pace there. For Kilahana, for the temporary housing, we've officially turned over 98% of the group site to FEMA, so they can begin in placing the homes there, and I'm sure we'll have some good news coming up here shortly about how that'll work. The remaining 2% is just a small punch list of little things that we still have to do to make the group site finished and ready to be inhabited here shortly. So we'll have that 100% turned over to FEMA by the 28th of October. And then for the sewer line, we're at 80% complete with the main line. So we have over 20 of the 29 laterals into the individual properties. We're almost done on Fleming Road with the main line. And then on Malo, we're 50% done with the road there. We did unfortunately encounter some tricky situations with the groundwater and the soil there, so we have some testing going on, so we just stop work there until we find out what we're working with, and then we'll move forward. But we have a way ahead to make sure that we're able to service Kilahana when it's ready and inhabited, whenever that may be. All right, so mahalo for the opportunity to give an update, and thanks.
Good evening, everybody. Shane Agawa, Director of Environmental Management. Tonight I'll be giving you just a quick update on the wastewater status. Thanks, Mahina. Okay, so this is the Kuhua Camp area. Again, you folks are familiar with this. The before on the left, the red lots, and the after on the right. We have about 14 lots in this area on the north side of Aki Street. Next slide. And then we have one more lot on the south side of Aki Street, of Kuhua Street and Lahaina Luna Road. We just ask that you guys continue to be patient if your lots are still red. Our crews are still working in the Kuhua area. They're making progress, as you can see. Our contractor is going to be breaking ground next week. They're going to start work on the main sewer repairs. What I've asked them to do, and I'm working with our wastewater team who works with the contractor, is to see if they can do several crews at once. So the main target right now for them is Front Street. That's the trunk line. So those of you who have lots that are red in that box between Kinui and Shaw below the highway, you're going to see a lot of progress once the contractor starts taking on that repairs on Front Street. Several crews, because we still know that there's some outlying areas that our crews, our in-house crews, can't do. So if we can get the contractor to work on several areas at one time, you'll see a lot of progress. For those of you in Wahikuli, I believe Malolo Place, Hamao Place, north end of Kahoma, will get to you. That work needs to coincide with the Army Corps' work on Malo and Fleming, as the Colonel mentioned. So just be patient with us and we'll work on getting your zones green. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Shadi Monamzada. I'm with FEMA, the Individual Assistance Branch. Last week, we were here talking to you about the Kilahana group site, and this week, I'm here to talk to you about a couple different lines of effort also related to temporary housing. Specifically, let's see, there we go. The Alternative Transportable Temporary Housing Units, or ATTHUs, which are those modular units. I'll talk more about that in a second. Those placement of those on privately owned sites, whether they're primary properties or secondary properties. I'll talk about what that means in just a moment. But first, to give an overview of direct housing and kind of where we are, we have just under 13 households that are eligible for direct temporary housing through our direct housing program. Currently, we've had 45 households that have transitioned out and moved on to their permanent housing plan. And so we have 1,192 households currently occupying direct housing units, specifically in direct lease. You can see here on the left side, we have the 4 different forms of direct temporary housing that we're working here in Maui. Direct lease, I'm sure everybody's very familiar with. It's where we've leased with individual properties to place our survivors in there. And currently, everybody who is housed in direct housing are in direct lease units. We also have the Kilohana group site, which we will be licensing in people into, thank you, the ATTHUs at that site, as we talked about last week, very soon. But I wanted to talk to you today about two other lines of effort that we're working with temporary housing, specifically the private sites, the primary private sites, and what we're calling microsites. You'll also see that referred to as secondary sites. So just a little overview of some of our direct housing. We have approximately 90% renters and 10% owners in our direct housing program. Insurance is not a criteria to be eligible for direct housing or ineligible for direct housing. And in addition to meeting our general conditions for IHP, there's a certain damage threshold and to be eligible for direct housing. All right. So what are these primary private sites? We've licensed in everybody into the direct lease program. We have Kilohana group site coming on board very soon, but we do have about just under half of our survivors licensed into direct lease units outside of the West Maui area. And we are working to identify ways to bring people back to the Lahaina area who are interested in returning so that to help rebuild the community. So this is one line of effort we're doing that in. So what just happened? Oh, there we go. So we did reach out. This program is specifically for owners that are eligible for direct housing. So we reached out to all of the owners within our program that were had a site that was potentially eligible for placement of an ATTHU, and gauge their interest. And the idea behind it is to help homeowners stay close to home as their home is being rebuilt. So one criteria to be eligible for this was the property had to be big enough both to place an ATTHU and to rebuild their home. So we contacted all of those direct housing eligible homeowners to talk about the potential feasibility. We worked with USACE to do a feasibility assessment of those locations. And at this point, we've conducted all of those feasibility assessments. For all of the homeowners of infeasible properties, they've all been notified and informed that their units are infeasible. This was largely due to the size of the site. And there is an appeal process for those who disagreed and wanted to be reconsidered. And then all homeowners that have feasible properties were also informed of their feasibility. And that's pretty much where we are now with this. FEMA is moving forward with the permitting process, with site preparation, and then the delivery of the ATTHUs, those modular units, for those feasible properties. So the second line of effort we're working towards this, again, to bring people back into the West Maui area, is the microsites. This is specifically for property owners of secondary or rental units or rental properties who don't intend to immediately rebuild in the area. So maybe they had a rental property on that land and that has burned down and is now a vacant land. So we are seeking to potentially lease out that property to place ATTHUs on to put survivors into that are currently licensed into direct lease units outside of the West Maui area. So if a property is chosen, they're going to go through the same feasibility assessment that the private sites went through to make sure that an ATTHU can be placed on the property. And if that property is chosen, then we'll install the ATTHU on the leased land to put in a direct housing eligible household. And we will be determining which households go into those properties. For this specific, so we've conducted an initial outreach, kind of targeting secondary rental properties. We worked with the county. We identified an initial list of properties based on the USACE right of entry data, kind of filtering for any potential lots that were sufficient size to house at least 2 ATTHUs, and also considering the high hazard coastal floodplain. So we identified that list, we coordinated with the county, and the county sent out a flyer to those property owners to let them know that if they're interested in the program, to reach out to us and put an email there. And that's the email for interested property owners to reach out to us. And we've been accepting those inquiries, and we've been kind of vetting through them. And if we're moving forward with a property owner, we'll kind of explain the process to them at that stage. So some criteria for potential feasibility: the damaged dwelling can't be in the high hazard coastal floodplain, as I mentioned. The owner of the property must verify that they are the owner. They must give FEMA the right of entry so that we can come in and work with USACE to do that feasibility assessment. And they must grant access to the site to deliver, install, maintain, repair, and remove the ATTHU. FEMA must be able to place 2 or more units on the property, as I mentioned, and it must be cleared of debris and other obstacles so that we can place the units. And we do have a preference for properties that already have available and functional utilities, such as public sewer, private septic system, potable water service, and electrical service. But we are considering all potential properties, particularly in the West Maui area, and we'll kind of look at it on a case-by-case basis. So for the next steps, I mentioned that's the email for interested property owners. And if a property is considered, we will reach out for the signed right of entry form. We'll schedule that feasibility assessment, and to make sure that the site meets our criteria needs. And if feasible, we'll explain the leasing process, any necessary paperwork, and whatever requirements there may be. So, and then at that stage, we'll move forward with the installation. And then, of course, property owners may not contact some survivors once they're licensed into the FEMA units. And this is just an overview. We shared this at the group last week during the group site overview, but of what the ATTHUs look like. These are 3 potential vendors. We don't know which ones will go into either the private or secondary site, but this is just kind of a rendering of what they would look like. They're all manufactured on the mainland and shipped to Maui to be assembled, and they're all compliant with the Maui County building codes. And then, of course, always want to put a plug in for our any ways that you need to contact us. We have our helpline at 800-621-3362. We have our direct housing line at 808-784-1600. And we're available in person at the Lahaina Gateway Center and the CNHA office. That's all. Thank you very much.
Well, good evening. Aloha. I'm Gordon Ito. I want to thank really Mayor Bisson for inviting us to be here. And I'm just going to provide some quick updates, and we'll be available for questions at the end. Well, this is, you can find this on our website, which is at CCCA, well, you'll see our website address hopefully at the end, but it's cca.hawaii.gov/INS. So this is a chart. We do a data call now, it's done quarterly. We're about to post the most recent data call, which is the end of September. So in a few days, this chart's going to be updated with respect to the amount of claims paid, as well as the total amount of insurance proceeds that have been issued. So residential property, it's about 84% that has been paid. For personal and commercial auto, the insurers have paid almost 100% of the claim that been filed. So if you have any questions, you can always go to our website and look at this page and call us. This is just a slide that we created, just showing the number of complaints that we received in the office. We received over 70 complaints in the last 14 months, but the most important thing is if you folks have any questions or you have any concern or issues with your insurance company or agent, really please don't hesitate to call our office, the insurance division. We're part of the Department of Commerce and Consumer Affairs, and our contact number will be on the last slide. The previous person really covered what's really available. It's really, I think, fantastic in what FEMA's done and the changes they made to provide benefits or assistance really to survivors. So I can't urge you folks enough to really contact FEMA if you have any questions. Well, it's missing, well, actually it's missing our contact slide, but we'll get that updated. Our phone number is 808-586-2790, so you can always contact us by calling us or by email, which is insurance@hawaii.gov. So we'll get the contact sheet on. I'm not sure why it's not there, but anyway, yeah. Before I end, I just wanted to add, you know, with respect to those that unfortunately lost people during the fire, the National Association of Insurance Commissioner has this terrific service called Life Policy Locator. And it's not only applicable for really people who lost their lives in the fire, but at any, if you have someone who had died even before the fire, since then, and you're uncertain as to whether they had a life insurance policy, you can go to NAIC.org and look for this search that's called Life Policy Locator. So you would provide the person who passed away their basic information, and what NAIC does is send it out to multiple insurance companies, and they'll search their database to see if that person actually had a life insurance policy in effect. Through that service, billions of dollars have been recovered for really survivor and beneficiaries. So I just wanted to note that, and we'll put that on also our slide, and you can check that out. But that's another really terrific service that's being offered and could provide assistance. So it's NAIC.org, the National Association of Insurance Commissioner, and look for this thing called Life Policy Locator. So you can always search to see if your family member had a life insurance policy that you potentially can get benefits. Our Hawaii Insurance Division phone number is 808-586-2790. And again, please don't hesitate to call us, because we're here to help you in whatever way we can. Thank you.
We have been asking Commissioner Ito to come at your request, but the scheduling has been a little hard. So I just want to make sure y'all got that. So especially online, that phone number is 808-586-2790. And the website for the National Association of Insurance Commissioners, where you can do a search for policies that exist, is N like Nancy, NAIC.org. Stands for National Association of Insurance Commissioners. So please use that. And we're going to turn this over to the United Policyholders, Valerie Brown here, who flew in. She's the Deputy Director of the nonprofit organization.
Thank you for having me. Yeah. So just wanted to make sure I'm doing this right. There we go. Come over so I can be seen. Perfect. Thank you. Wherever you need me to go, I'll be. So Valerie Brown, Deputy Executive Director of United Policyholders. We are, thanks to the support of the Community Foundation, we'll be offering our Roadmap to Recovery program, which is going to give you opportunities for very in-depth help and education and additional resources to help with your insurance claim. So we're starting that at the end of the month. We'll be focusing on contents as our first workshop. Okay, let me try this again. There we go. This is a little bit about UP. I know you've seen Sherry here at the two centers, and she's continuing her work with you, and we're just bringing a few more resources to help you. So one of the things is our Ask an Expert. These are things that we're offering that are resources to help you individually. And then the Roadmap to Recovery program, these are some of the topics we'll be covering. So as I said, the end of the month, we're going to be offering a content. It'll be a 2-hour workshop. We'll walk you through getting that personal property claim together. And I keep hitting buttons, apparently. Sorry about that. To set you up in the new year, we'll be covering disaster casualty tax losses. Very complicated piece to be able to make sure you're able to capture that information and apply it to your taxes. We'll have an expert in that. We'll be talking about the finances of rebuilding, working with your insurance policy to do that. Also the mechanics of rebuilding, what you need to know with relationships to insurance. Under insurance, we'll be doing a deeper dive on that. Claims handling, problem solving. And then we'll be offering 2 clinics that'll hit in the new year. One will be on financial decision making. We'll be working with the case managers, but also taking individuals so that if you're figuring out how to move forward financially, we'll bring in certified financial planners to help with that piece. We have a program we've done nationally with their foundation. We'll be bringing that in the new year, and then we'll do a legal clinic that is very specific to insurance law. And so when we're doing those workshops, we'll be doing 2 of them. Each week we do them. We'll be doing probably every 4 to 6 weeks. We'll do a Saturday morning. I'm thinking it's going to be 10 to 12. And then we'll be doing a Tuesday evening, 5:30 to 7:30. Locations will be provided by the end of the week. And we'll get that information out. And for those of you who don't know Sherry, please take advantage of her. And I'll let her tell you where she is, but take advantage of her in a nice way.
Thank you, Val. I know a lot of you in the room. I'm at the Lahaina Gateway on Fridays and at the CNHA office in Kahului on Thursdays. We brought some yellow books for you. You can pick those up tonight. It has a lot of great claim information in it. And also my phone number is stamped on the first page. So if you need to get a hold of me, if you want to meet with me, the best way to do that is send me an email, a text, or call me, and I'll set up a time, and that way I know that I've got a couple of hours just to sit down with you, and you're not waiting to see me. So that seems to be working best. If Thursday or Friday don't work for you, let me know that, and we can arrange another time to meet. And I'm looking forward to continuing to work with all of you. Right, before I forget, one more thing. I noticed FEMA mention about rental assistance and continued temporary housing assistance. For those of you who no longer have loss of use or additional living expenses available to you, I'm available to meet with you and help you navigate that process. So if you want to take advantage of that, please let me know.
Aloha, everyone. My name is Johnny Lane Gallen. I am the Wildfire Community Liaison for Maui Humane Society. And I'm just here to remind a lot of you folks of what we're doing here on the west side. And so I'm going to cover 3 topics. I'm going to cover our Lahaina Resource Center, our mobile wellness clinic, and our Forever Pets program for everyone who's directly affected from the fires. So here we have our mobile wellness clinic. It occurs once a week. And then we have our 3 units over on Ulupono Street across from the Mormon Church. So our Lahaina Resource Center, so we occupied the Lahaina Resource Center. We signed the lease in December 2023, and we're there for 2 years. Hopefully we'll be able to extend more with the recovery efforts. That's our address. And right now, so if many of you folks are familiar with the Maui Food Bank. So Maui Food Bank and us were adjacent neighbors, and so it's a complementary force to help everyone on this side. And we just aligned our hours along with Maui Food Bank, so when people come and they obtain food for their families, they can also go next door and get supported from us. And the Lahaina Resource Center, the one thing we don't do is we don't house animals, but we are there to support people with food. And from Monday through Friday, we supply folks not just with food, but also like anything that's occurring in regards to housing, any issues that you are having regarding transfer. So we're really there just as a collective effort. And so at the Lahaina Resource Center, we have our once a week mobile wellness clinic. Still right now, it's still the only veterinary presence on the west side because we lost West Maui Animal Clinic And the purpose of the wellness clinic is to service everyone who's been directly affected. And our services, even though it's limited, our wellness clinic is there to offer free services to everyone directly affected. We do see folks that come and that live in like Honokawai, Kapalua, and for all of those who are still here on the west side and still need vet services, we do offer a low-cost structure for them as well too. So today, Wednesday, usually our wellness clinic is on Wednesdays from 10 to 3 o'clock, but we advise everyone to check on our website. Sometimes it's on a Tuesday. It just depends on the veterinarian who is available, but it's usually on Wednesdays. And as far as the wellness clinic, how it works, there's no appointment necessary. So you just bring your animal in, you sign an intake form, and then you usually wait or we're able to call you. And so if you want to find out when the wellness clinics are as each week goes, it's just on our homepage on mauihumanesociety.org, and you just scroll down on the events. And so for everyone directly affected, we have our Forever Pets program. And prior to the fires, Forever Pets program we have it designed to help those who are undergoing financial hardship. But because of the fires, everyone here's gone through more than just financial hardship. And the last thing we want anyone to do is to be concerned about the cost, where they're gonna get their food for their pets, because our pets are a part of our family and they're a part of our keeping us together in this recovery process. So the Forever Pets program, you apply into the program, you can scan the QR code, or you can go to the Lahaina Resource Center that I run, and you can fill out an application. And what it is we are able to supply you with 1 month's worth of food, or crates or any accessories for your pets. And we do that according to how many pets you have in your family. And so you go to whether you're temporary housed here on the west side, or you were relocated upcountry or in Kahului, you can either go to the Lahaina Resource Center, or you can go to our main shelter. And what it is you're in the program, and we send you an alert, once a month, and you're able to go to either location, pick up supplies for your pets. Because the whole idea is, as we're recovering, as you pay for supplies for your kids' school, especially when it comes to your own housing, there's all these phantom costs. And the last thing we want anyone to do, especially that you survive with your pets, is to have to surrender your animal because you cannot afford. So us here at Maui Humane, we're trying to do everything we can to keep you and your pets together. And then also for everyone who's directly affected, we do have we don't really have a name for it, but it's a veterinary expense assistance. So everyone affected from the fires, and you have these these costs from your private vets that you aren't able to afford, or that you paid for, and you still want to see if you can have some assistance, we are able to work with you to try and cover some of those costs and reimburse. Again, because as you're recovering, the last thing we want you to feel stressed about is any emergency procedure with your animals. And then also in regards to housing, a concern is pet inclusive housing. Although us at Maui Humane, we don't have a pet-friendly housing program, we are working in a case-by-case basis with everyone in their particular situation, whether it's us working with Kaulana Mahina to the Kaulana Mahina apartments to bring people from the hotels into that pet-friendly complex. We were able to help them raise their occupancy up to 35%, which was really nice. It was something I'm very proud of. And then also, if you apply into a 2-bedroom unit, or there's a property management company that has these certain stipulations about pets, we're able to talk to that property management company. We're able to see how we can work to, the primary principle is to keep you and your pets together in your house. And then also in regards to just us being here on the west side, with our Lahaina Resource Center, it's just our physical way of showing that we are here as a collective effort. So if any of you have any input or suggestions on how Maui Humane can continue to support the community, feel free to reach out to me directly. Feel free to come visit. But we're here to adapt with you. And then here's my contact information. So that's my direct work cell number. So you can text it, you can call it. That's my email, wildfire@mauihumanesociety.org. And again, our address is at 48 Ulupona Street. We have 3 units, but the middle unit is kind of the main unit, Suite 106. So, mahalo.
Okay, before we go into our normal Q&A session where you all raise hands and then we call on you, I just want to cover a couple of things. I know we have a question about workshops that I think United Policy you had suggested. We're looking for that list, so if you can give it to Locke sitting right next to you so we can offer either the website or a link for people to get info on those workshops. At last week's meeting, which I missed, I hope you missed me, I missed you, the adult daycare question came up, so I have an update for you from our Managing Director, Josiah Nishita, who was here last week, but is not here this evening. We are looking at a property in town on Kenui Street for an adult daycare center, the possibility of one. They have to schedule a site visit and do a review and see if it's appropriate, and there's a process for it, but he wanted to offer some assurance that that is in motion, and it's a property currently under the HHFDC, Hawaii Housing Finance and Development Corps on Kenui Street. So just want to let you know the adult daycare site is actively being looked at and looked for. Before we move on to taking care of your questions, we also know we're getting quite a number of questions about people's insurance proceeds being billed for cleanup of your debris. So to be helpful with some of those questions, Erin Wade is here from our team, and she's going to just offer some information to at least address some of those concerns and questions. Erin?
Thank you, Mahina. I know this came up a couple weeks ago. I'm sorry I wasn't here to jump in and answer those questions. You might be thinking now that you've had your cleanup and perhaps your insurance has sent you a check for debris removal, what you're supposed to do with that. So just to be clear, when the rights of entry was signed, it was in the language of the right of entry that any proceeds that you have in your insurance policy specific to debris removal will be requested at the end of the cleanup. Now, I want to define for you time frame because there is a time frame here that's important that you're aware of. So for debris removal cleanup, the Army Corps and FEMA has invested a lot of money, but your amount in your debris removal policy might just be a small percentage of your total policy, or it might be a specific amount not to exceed. We've seen $10,000 and less in some cases. But what you need to know is that for the purpose of once you've received the check, you should put that money aside, because what will happen at the end of all of the debris removal cleanup, we're gonna get a cost report from FEMA by parcel that tells us how much it was to do the cleanup throughout. And then the state and county will work together to reach out to you for your insurance proceeds specific to debris removal. So when that happens is going to be a while away. We're just now getting cost estimates in from KULA. So, and that was concluded back in February. We don't even have the cost report yet from KULA. So it might be several months before we get the cost report specific for your property. So please just keep in mind, if you did receive insurance proceeds and it includes money for your debris removal, set that aside so that when we reach out to you to request the funds that are specific to that, you have it. The second component of that is you might be still eligible to use some of those debris removal funds to continue cleanup on your property. So we talked about ineligible debris removal previously. So sometimes the Army Corps can't clean up at all, or it's not all eligible for cleanup. In that case, if it was trees, and just also a thank you to Sonoma and Santa Rosa, who provided us a lot of information about this process specifically. They allowed for insurance proceeds for debris removal to be used to mitigate if there was excessive digging that happened as a result of removing your foundation, so replacing the material in order to get you back to your level site. That occasionally has been used. You do want to talk to your insurance provider or United policyholders to assist you and find out what specifically your insurance deems as eligible for debris removal. But if you have money for debris removal and you still have costs for cleanup, you may be able to use it for that. And then just to wrap it up, you will not be asked for anything more than what is specific to debris removal for you, for your property. So if you don't have a debris removal clause, it probably isn't something you need to worry about. And if you didn't have insurance, there's also no bill because you couldn't have received a duplication of benefits. Okay. And I'm happy to answer questions. I know it's complicated, but I'm happy to answer questions too. Thanks.
Thank you, Erin. We're going to go ahead and go into our Q&A session. I do want to say that our entire team is here, including Four Leaf. They're here with us this evening. Commissioner Ito from the State Insurance Office has a flight to catch, so we're going to take his questions first. We do have a question for him that came online. Commissioner, the question is, will ALE be extended longer by insurance companies? So I'll have you come.
So on that question, last year we actually issued a memorandum requesting insurance companies to extend their ALE up to 3 years. But what the end result is, we didn't have any mandatory authority by law. So we asked voluntarily for them to. So there are some companies that have agreed to extend. There are companies that have declined to extend. In particular, those that have declined to extend is if there wasn't any secondary or second specific dollar amount mentioned in the ALE, those, and they only had a time period of 1 year, those companies are the ones that, there's quite a few that said they were not going to extend it beyond a year because their monetary, the time limitation was really the limitation on how much they would pay out in their policy. So we got a few companies that denied or said they're not going to agree to extend up to 3 years. So. But we did ask them, and that memo is still there, asking them to extend the ALE up to 3 years.
Thank you, Commissioner. Can you raise your hand if you have a question for Commissioner Ito? Oh, you did a good job. No. Look at him all happy.
No, but really, it just says, yes. So,
ALE.
Additional living expenses. Yeah. Sorry. But, yes.
Okay, we're going to run the microphone to you only because the online folks
we don't have a
want to know
list
the
of
question.
companies that have agreed to extend the ALE or not, but you can always contact us and tell us what company you have, and then we'll tell from what we hear. Yeah.
Okay, we'll take a question from the woman right there in the middle, between the two, whoever gets to her first. Anyone else, raise your hand. Okay.
Whose mandatory authority is it to extend if it's not under your jurisdiction?
Well, in Hawaii, there's no mandatory authority. Like California, Colorado, some other states pass specific laws after wildfire events to extend or to make it mandatory to extend it. But we don't have that authority in our laws at the present time.
So if anything, it would be the governor to pass legislation in that regard?
There were actually bills that were introduced last legislative session to make it mandatory, but the bills didn't make it through the legislative session.
So it would need to go to the state legislature first.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions for Gordon Ito?
Well, thank you. And again, if you have any question about your insurance policy, really don't hesitate to contact us. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. One more question. Morris, right here.
I know that some of us have gotten our insurance canceled.
Okay.
And they're not going to renew. And there's also talk of many of insurance companies pulling out of the fire damaged areas. So is the state thinking about getting some kind of, I don't know.
I understand your question. The Hawaii, even before the Maui wildfire and nationwide, we've entered into what we call an extremely hard insurance market, where availability becomes a problem and really pricing really becomes a huge issue. In Hawaii, what's happened really since the wildfire is there's, especially in the condominium associations, we only have 3 admitted companies are authorized that they're licensed by the state that write insurance on condominium AOAO, what they call master policy, that covers the common areas of a condominium or townhome complex. In May 2023, there's one of the 3 carriers decided they had too much exposures on hurricane insurance. And so they put on what we call sublimits on how much hurricane coverage they would write for a condominium building. And that's created a havoc in the entire insurance market. And when I say sublimit, as an example, if like Freddie and Fannie, the federal programs require condominium or townhomes to be 100% insured. So on the hurricane sublimit, if your condominium if it was totally destroyed and the cost of rebuilding it, right, it was $100 million, that insurance company put initially a sublimit of $20 million on hurricane exposure. So that what's forced many condo associations that had that carrier is agent has to scramble around to get what we call surplus line insurance, unauthorized companies that we have no rate authority over, to get up to 100% total replacement value. So if your building was 100 million and in 2023 that insurer only offered 20 million, they have to go to a non-admitted carrier to get the additional $80 million, and they're just charging whatever they want to charge. So you have condominium associations that have seen increases of between 200–300%. The average for certain types of building is 300 to 500% increase on the hurricane risk side. There's projects that have seen an increase of 1,000%. Okay, what we're trying to do, well, actually even before Maui wildfire, I came back as commissioner in December 2022, and I started realizing the market was very hard. So at that time, I actually reached out to the Hawaii Property Insurance. It's what we call residual market insurer that was formed because of the lava zones 1 and 2 on the Big Island, but it's now expanded to write basic fire statewide. So in May of 2023, as I started seeing the market getting really bad, I actually asked HPIA to start expanding capacity and increase their policy limit to be able to, if there's a lack of availability, they could be an insurer of last resort. So they've been working very hard to provide that gap. They've actually picked up about 200 policies statewide. So when you're going back to the cancellation, there are some buildings that are, or units that are being non-renewed by certain carriers in Hawaii, especially wood frame or wood frame structured in probably wildfire risk areas. But HPIA and other insurers are still willing to pick up. So I would say if you did get renewed, please contact your agent. They can shop around to see if there's a admitted market carrier. At the last resort, you can go to HPIA and you can contact them to see if they would write a policy for your building. On the hurricane side and what's happening in the condominium, we finally was able to get the HHRF, the Hawaii Hurricane Relief Fund, that was created in 1993 after Hurricane Iniki, where there was no availability of hurricane insurance. So I'm working with HHRF to get them reconstitute, but we are actually in the process of looking and hiring consultants to provide market assessment as well as provide some options to help stabilize the hurricane insurance market, in particular the condominiums. And so I'm hoping within the next few months we're going to be able to get option, make a decision on what we want to do, issue a policy on behalf of the HHRF, and that will provide at least some additional capacity on the hurricane side, and hopefully it's going to further stabilize the market. But the big thing that I was keeping my fingers crossed was that this year the U.S. would not have any major hurricane and losses, because that impacts, I mean, really, that impacts what's happening in the hard market. Reinsurance is what insurance companies to shed or to transfer some of the risks that they write. And that reinsurance premiums have been increasing 20 to 30% every year the last 3 years, and that's one of the causes why the premium is going up. So, we're really trying to work to stand up the HRF, have them offer some coverage on the condominium AOAO's association policy to help stabilize that thing. So that's what we're doing at this very moment.
Thank you, Commissioner Ito. I know you have to catch a plane. This is, I think, his fourth or fifth, to one of our community meetings since the first month. So really appreciate you coming into Maui.
Again, if you have any questions or need any assistance, don't hesitate to contact us. Really.
Very responsive. We'll go to our general questions now. Please raise your hand, and our helpers will bring the mic over to you, Morris. We'll go to the gentleman here with the black hat, followed by the front row. Here. Oh, no, here. I'll grab it. Thank you. Thank you.
I have a question for Aaron regarding debris cleanup invoices.
Thank you. As she makes her way up, you want to go ahead with your question?
Yes, the question is, I want to circle back around what you said. My insurance company wants me to provide them the invoice to be paid, and they're going to pay it. It's not, hey, give me the money and I'm going to pay you. My problem is that I understand that I need to close my insurance claim before I file in the portal for my lawsuit, which I guess there's an opening of that portal coming up on November the 1st. So I need to close my insurance claim, but I need to have it closed before I can file my claim. So I know there's an administrative process involved with it. We were one of the first people to be cleaned up. Sounds like you're moving through it, but whatever you guys can do to, there's a timeline. Just wanted to share that.
Thank you. That's the first I heard that specific case. So thank you for sharing that. I will follow up with both our state and federal partners on that. And then I'm sure we're not the only community that's dealt with this. So I'll find out how else this has been dealt with in the past and make sure we get you an option for how to handle that. Okay?
Thank you, Erin. Go ahead, ma'am. Question?
Yes, this may be for the planning department. Looking at the new shoreline that is predicted to be in 75 years, it seems to me that we have our sewer lines and many of our water lines within that area. Even the highway over by Olawalu is in that area, and I don't think moving that highway 30 feet over is going to be enough for the predicted rise in sea level. Are we planning anything for the new sewer line? Is it going to be in the shoreline and the waters, or are we going to think about in the future, what can we do? Because it does take us a while to get things done. I mean, the bypass took at least 30 years.
I will see if Shane Ogawa wants to tackle that, and I do want to say that our planning department will be here next week to talk about the long-term recovery plan on the Wednesday meeting. And then the following Wednesday will be their open house, and then next year's community meetings will have regular updates based on that long-term recovery plan from our county departments and folks who are moving that plan forward. But Shane, can you help with that question?
Yeah, thank you for that question. It is something that we've been looking at from our wastewater reclamation division. However, it's very complex, as you can imagine. We still need to service our existing customers. So, for example, if you take Front Street, for example, If you got customers on the Mauka side and not on the shoreline, we still need to continue service. So same as Lower Honopilani Highway or Lower Honopilani Road, we have that issue there. So we are looking at different corridors, but it takes a lot of work to move infrastructure, as you can imagine. We normally follow the roadway, so it's going to be a combined effort. It's not just sewer, right? It's drainage, water, roadway. People don't want the utilities to go in through their backyards. So we are looking at it. However, it is going to take a long time for us to get corridors, plan. We need to figure out manage retreat. Like you said, planning department's part of it. It'll take a whole team to figure that out, but we are looking at it and we are aware of it.
Thank you, Shane. Next question in the back. Oh.
Hi. Yeah, this is looking forward as well. I'm not sure if this is for any of you guys, but has anybody thought about the harbor at all in the planning? I know the state doesn't really have much funding as of right now to get the harbor going, and to me, it's kind of the economic spark of the town that would really help get this town back in action and get people back to work. So I'm just putting that out there for anyone.
So next week, when we're discussing the long-term recovery plan and they're offering some insight into it, we'll have the planning department talk about whatever has been addressed or what the next need would be, if that helps. But tonight, we're not prepared to, unless someone here knows something about it. Okay. So we're going to take that for next week's meeting, and we'll prep our team that's coming in to talk about that future plan. Okay. Okay. Sir, your question.
Hi, this question's for the mayor. Sorry. So a few months ago, you mentioned when you guys were talking about the new shoreline and SMA rules, there was a question about the land swap for those property owners that not required, but a voluntary basis. And I know I have a lot of friends, survivors that are on the ocean. They don't necessarily want to rebuild in harm's way, so they're aware of a potential land swap. I know there's one-on-ones with these meetings, but there hasn't been any discussion of what the possibilities are for the land swap. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah, so we continue to explore those options. Some of these lands involve private landowners, and that's the piece that's still being discussed. I think if there's anybody here or anybody online that is interested in doing that kind of thing, for them to contact the county. I don't know, Erin, do you know who the contact? Okay, it'll be Erin. She's kind of our go-to person for a lot of things having to do with this issue. So we see that as a viable option for people who are running into the reality that it kind of goes in line with the question that was asked about some of the other issues that we're facing. The only difference between this and that is this is a very individual decision to be made. So it doesn't involve everybody in the room. It involves those people who, have generations of living on their property, and there's big decisions to be made. So we from the county are not trying to take anybody's land or force them to do anything. But if someone's going to make this decision, they should do it when there's still value to the land and not wait till there's a time when no one's going to want to do the swap. And right now we're open, because everything that's happened to us, that we are, open to helping those families find an alternative, moving Mauka. Other issues that come up with this, like I said, I think it's just very individual. I think the properties, people's ability to try to hang on to their properties, their financial decisions to be made, emotional decisions to be made. These are not easy discussions. And again, they're not automatic either. So I'm urging people to reach out to us rather than the county goes along and says, you got to swap, you got to swap, you got to swap. Along the shoreline, I think that's very individual. Now, there are other places we talked about where we're trying to work on evacuation routes that we are reaching out to those property owners, and we are having those conversations with them. It's not like we have a lot available for people right now. It's like that the county has homes that we can offer you right now that you can go look at and say, okay, I'll do the switch. because there's a third party. There are third parties involved that we have to also plan with. So I hope that answers your question. I just wanted to say one thing about what Aaron was talking about earlier. For those of you who have the debris cleanup portion of your insurance, you're only needing to pay back what you have left on that. So if you needed to use that, if let's say USACE cleaned up as much as they could, and there were things that they were not able to clean because it was outside of the zone that they were supposed to clean or remove, you can use your debris clearance insurance money to do those things. In fact, I would recommend you do that. I would urge you to do that. And if you zero out, you zero out. At the end, when it's time to turn over whatever you have left, it's whatever you have left. Everybody understanding? Sorry, was something to add? Okay, sorry. Keep your receipts. But I know you guys are doing that already. But yeah, sorry. Keep your receipts. You guys all understand that? I mean, anybody have a question about that part? Yeah, I just wanted to add that.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Mayor, would you mind giving Aaron the mic? And
Yes.
Aaron, what is your email for people to contact you?
Sure, it's my name, ERIN.WADE@mauicounty.gov. So if you are thinking about land swap or land options, you're welcome to email me. I don't have an immediate solution, but I can start data gathering, and that helps us look for solutions for you. Okay.
Thank you, Aaron. Okay, so Aaron, ERIN.Wade, WADE @mauicounty.gov. Thank you. Next question. I thought I saw a hand somewhere. Oh, okay. Oh. No question? Just raise your hand. Oh, okay. Oh, right in front of you. Okay. Go ahead, ma'am.
Okay, few months ago, maybe 3 or 4 months ago, we had a meeting, and they were saying was the Kahua Street, that camp area. Anyway, they were telling us that they were trying to extend the road, and we had to take 10 feet in our property, and I never heard anything about it.
Okay.
So I'm just waiting, and we didn't hear anything for months. So, Erin?
Okay, so the question is the extension of Kahua Street, which was mentioned some time ago. Aaron, could you make sure you go right into the mic?
Yeah, I can. So I hosted the 6 Kahua camp meetings and conversations, and I'm really sorry if we did send out 2 different follow-up emails. So I need to make sure that I get in touch with you about how to get you additional information. Just in summary, from all of the 6 meetings and conversations, we started talking about roadway widening and the need for clear access for fire trucks throughout the neighborhood and what the community was comfortable with. Throughout the discussion, it came back to folks really wanted to retain as much private property as possible and ensure that we have the 20-foot clearance for fire truck, but not do additional roadway expansion at this time. So that's how we're progressing with Public Works, with the exception of Kahua Street itself, and that's the one that would get connected through to Kiave Street. So that additional extension and the Aki Street extension are the 2 additional connections that are happening. Does that answer your question?
One of them.
Okay.
So I went to go see my Kahua Street property, and the thing is, I went down the road, so they blocked the road. So what are they going to do?
The road is currently blocked because of the smokestack.
No, not that road.
Okay, which road?
Going straight down to Kahua Street, and then you're going to Aki Street. If you go down, it's blocked. You can't go through that.
Okay.
And the smokestack one is separate. I know about the smokestack one.
Okay, I don't know about that right now, so I can look into that and get a response for the reasoning for next meeting.
Could we make sure that we get contact information to just make sure after this meeting is done? Okay, thank you. Any other question? Oh, online? Is that it? Okay. Go ahead, Laura.
Yes, I have two online questions. The first online question is, I am currently on rental assistance, which expires in February of 2025. This is a question for FEMA. I know that at this time my condo won't be built for another 3 to 4 years, so what will happen to me?
So we did just get approved for an extension of individuals and households program, inclusive of rental assistance. So that is extended until February 10, 2026.
The best announcement ever, and I should have missed it. Okay, so it's been extended to February 2026.
Correct.
Okay, so, all right.
Great. Did you want my second question?
Oh, sorry, go ahead, La.
Okay, the other question that we had online was also for FEMA. The question was, why doesn't FEMA use commercially available RV trailer homes for ATHU applications? These are far less expensive than module homes, don't require assembly, and come fully furnished and are easily moved using a truck or a tow hitch.
So our acquisitions team went through a bidding process per federal law to select the vendors for the ATTHUs. They are designed to be a lot sturdier than the TT2s that we typically use on the mainland.
Okay, one more question for FEMA, because I know it's going to be asked later. For those not at this meeting or will later not review the video, will they get notices, or how will they be notified of the extension to February 2026 for your two programs?
So for financial assistance, there isn't, we don't send letters directly to survivors. You know, they continue to, every 3 months for continued temporary housing assistance would reapply and go through that process. We did issue a news release out and to announce it to the public of the extension. For direct housing households, they'll be notified about 90, 60, 30 days ahead.
Okay, thank you. Morris, the question back there? Yes, Mikey?
Hello, Mahina. This is more of a statement for FEMA. You don't have to respond because I'm tired of thoughts and prayers and just form responses. But I would like to say, at a macro level, you guys are doing amazing things in this disaster, amazing things. At a micro level, a lot of us are falling through the cracks. And one of the ones that I'm seeing is you reported that in your direct lease program, 90% is renters, 10% is homeowners. That's like 120 homeowners. Right now, the homeowners are exhausting our ALEs and our loss of use, and we're coming to FEMA for help. And the help that we're getting is only through rental assistance, correct? So, some of us are waiting 2+ months to get approvals for rental assistance. And the rental assistance program in FEMA is predicated on this formula that uses fair market rental values. The market on Maui is not fair. So it already sets us up for failure. And when you're paying 100% to 175%, for a lot of us homeowners who had to go find rentals on our own before we were exhausting our insurance, that's not even covering a fourth, a third, or half of our monthly rentals. But there's no other options for us. Also, because the microsites that you're talking about and citing them on our properties, that's an amazing thing. And that would have been amazing for homeowners like myself who ran out of ALE and could put something like that on my property. But I'm not even eligible from the get-go because I wasn't part of a direct lease program. I'm only allowed to be in the rental assistance program. So what I'm trying to say is I know you guys pride yourselves on equity and fairness. And from what I'm seeing, from what you just reported, and all of the conversations we're having with other homeowners, this is not equitable or fair for us homeowners. And while you guys are doing amazing things, homeowners are being left to fend for ourselves. So as you continue to be here for the next 2 years, thank you so much for that. Can you also figure out how to provide assistance to homeowners that doesn't force us to use our rebuild funds to pay the additional rent that we had to take on because of your unintended consequence of jacking up the rental prices here. That was an unnecessary evil that you guys had to attack. But what's happening now on the ground is every month that I have to pay $4,000 or $5,000 of my own money to a landlord, I think about and I calculate that and I say, if I gotta pay that for 12 months or 24 months before I can get into my house, that's potentially a bedroom that I can't build for my children, or maybe 2 bedrooms. That could mean, for some of us in here, or some of us online, that could make or break the fact that we even build a house at all. And I gotta tell you, a lot of these landlords, they don't care that we're dipping into our housing funds. They just see the stellar rental prices that FEMA is offering, and they're not equating it that it's 2 very different programs. And they just see the money on the table because FEMA brought that here. And it was necessary. I completely understand it, and a lot of us homeowners understand that, but we are falling through the cracks. And we're tired of thoughts and prayers.
Thank you for that. I know it is a very complicated housing situation here in Maui. I do just want to clarify in terms of direct housing eligibility, insurance inclusive of ALE benefits is not a factor in direct housing eligibility. So if there's something about your case that you need to provide to move it along, I mean, I highly encourage you to come visit us, the CNHA office, or at the Lahaina Gateway, or to call our helpline to see what can be done and what options you might have, or any household that inclusive of owners that might need help. Thank you.
We have a question here, Cynthia, on your side, right there with the orange.
It's actually not just her. It's every single homeowner that I've talked to, including ourselves. So something has to be done to help us.
Thank you. And
there's 2 hands raised. First on that side, gentleman in the gray, followed by on your side, Morris. Okay.
I don't have a question, but mainly an announcement. I've been left in charge of the West Maui Veterans Club. The West Maui Veterans Club, which is at the top of Fleming Road, was built by the AGA Japanese, mainly for the 442, for the community use. And it's one of the only homes or places in Waikuku that hasn't burned. I am opening it up to anybody who wants to hold a party or a luau for their kids, because I understand many people are in rental units that can't have a place to have a party. So I'm opening it up for free for Friday and Saturdays for probably the next year. And that's mainly what the Japanese 442 built it for the community. So people are more than welcome to call me. My number is 509-714-6417, and I understand. I spent myself 26 years on active duty in the military, but please give me a call. We can have parties. We have everything. We've had parties and funerals and everything there, and it's probably half this size. But people are more than welcome to use it to have some place to go at night.
Wow. So, Cynthia, before you get the mic, for those who don't know you, could you offer your name and repeat your phone number again? You'll be the busiest guy for a long time, but could you do that again?
My name is Frank Perry. I'm a 1972 graduate of Lahaina Luna. 509-714-6417. I usually press number 1 on the phone. But call me, we can hook it up. It's a good place to have a party. And now you can make all the noise you all want because it's all empty around it.
Look, your phone blowing up already. Mahalo for that aloha from you and your folks. I saw. Oh yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I have a question for several of the presenters. So for the person from the Humane Society, my question is, what veterinary services are being offered at your Lahaina clinic or whatever you call it?
Oh, thank you for your question. So for our wellness clinic, the services that we offer are vaccines, flea medication, microchip. We don't do any surgeries or any dental work. We do nail trims as well too. And of course, a veterinarian exam.
Thank you. I don't know if this is Shane, probably Shinagawa. When they're working on the sewer lines on the streets in the Kahua and Mill Camp, will we still have access to our properties because we have a building permit, and will other people in that neighborhood be able to access? Because won't they have to dig up part of the road to replace some of those lines?
Yeah, thank you for that question. It depends on where you are on Kuhua Street, I believe. As was mentioned earlier, there is the issue with the smokestack. So there's a radius, a safety radius. I don't know what would be open based on that radius. I don't have a map with me right now. But as far as the sewer work goes, if the barricades are open, if that zone is open, our contractor is required to provide traffic assistance and assessment. So to provide access to homeowners.
Okay,
yeah,
so
traffic
not
control,
just on Kahua Street, but the whole Kahua Mill Camp. I'm talking all the little,
Yeah.
like Aki Street and Kali Street and all
Right,
those will
so-
be accessible while you guys are working on the sewer?
If that zone is open to the public, the contractor needs to provide traffic access, traffic devices. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, and my other question, I'm not sure it'd be for you or for Tamara Paulton, but the reclamation water, is there any chance or talk about using the reclaimed water that comes out of the water that comes out of Lahaina, bringing it back as irrigation in all the dry fields like where Kamehameha School's old property is around the high school and stuff like that, so we can prevent the next fire? Is that on the table at all in the use of reclaimed water?
I'm your guy to answer that question.
Right on.
So we just gave a presentation in council. I've been giving presentations on R1 reclaimed water reuse. So right now, I want to say in the next several years, the plan is to get it to an upper level storage. As you can imagine, we need gravity to feed everybody who intends to use R1. So we have a project to take it to a 300-foot level elevation. It was a reservoir. We do own it. However, the reservoir needs a lot of renovation. So I believe we're going to turn to tanks. Now from that 300 level elevation, we want to get it to a 700-foot level reservoir. Once we get it there, we open up a lot of options of where we can take that R1. Right now, environmental management, our department, we're looking at coming south. So and we're talking this reservoirs is above our Honokowai treatment plant, right? So it's Mauka of that, 300, 700. For those of you that may not know, there's an old Honokowai ditch, they call it, that brings the water to Lahaina. Our plan is to follow the alignment of that ditch, not to use the ditch for surface like a ditch water, but to use that alignment with a pipe, bring it to the Wahikuli Reservoir. We currently do not own that reservoir. We are looking at acquiring land there, either for renovating the reservoir or creating tanks. From there, going south, we have no future plans yet. However, that is still on the table. We don't know how much R1 is going to be available. We have a lot of people that are wanting to use R1. It's becoming from a waste to a resource, and we recognize that. So we want to work to offset potable as much as possible, because we know Lahaina's source is not what it used to be. We need to use R1 as a resource to offset potable, right? So we're working with Department of Water Supply, that part is in their lane to get more source, and our part is to provide the R1. So yes, we are looking at coming south toward Lahaina, but we don't have any plans further than the 700-foot level storage and that line to Wahikuli Reservoir. So I hope that answers your question.
So what would we have to do to advocate to have it go past, like through the ditch that is existing through Lahaina Luna High School and over to where the fires keep starting over on Kamehameha School Bishop Estate, because they can put in wells, but then they're drawn out of the same aquifer we're trying to get potable water. So it's kind of like we got to get water back into our aquifer again with agriculture and trees, and it will create more water if we do that. But what do we need to do as the public to advocate for that? We'll say, as we're rebuilding, it's kind of discouraging to see all the brown grass.
I understand the question, and I don't want to take up all the time. We can talk about this offline. But generally speaking, if you bring that water south, that R1 water south, right, and you're going to provide water for agriculture south of Lahaina Luna Road, you're not going to offset potable, right? Think about it. It's new use. You're irrigating new crops, potentially new housing, landscaping. So it's a balance between targeting offsetting potable where we can, because R1 can't be used anywhere. Residential, you can't use it in residential. It has to be used for ag, irrigation, commercial properties. So we'll talk with the community, get feedback. I think there's a Y committee meeting on this coming up Friday, I believe. Thursday or Friday? Friday, which is 2 days from now. Tomorrow, sorry, Thursday. I would urge you to watch that. There'll be a lot of discussion about R1, where it should be used, community input. Again, I don't want to take up all the time. I can talk about this forever. But keep that in mind. Balancing offset potable or irrigate and create new use, right? We got to think about that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shane. One more question in the back. Go ahead.
And then my next question is for FEMA. Is that okay? So for FEMA, those modular units that you're putting on properties, if you have properties in the burn zone, are they eligible to be put in the burn zone, like for either homeowners or previous renters that were there? Do we get to choose who lives in them, like if it was a family member that was living in one, or if a homeowner wanted to live in those while we're rebuilding or whatever? What are the options for people who are in the burn zone to get a FEMA temporary housing and be able to decide who gets to live in it?
Yeah, like this. So yes, if your property is in the burn scar, you would be potentially eligible, and we would consider you. In terms of deciding who lives in the units, we are the one. FEMA determines who lives in the units. It's based on kind of household composition and our needs. Homeowners can't, unless it's on your own. You're being housed on your own private property as part of the private primary programs. There's 2 different programs kind of going concurrently. So.
Mikey?
How does a community member, since we're talking about water and want versus need, how does a community member go about advocating that the county cease and desist any permits for pools? It's shocking when you drive around Lahaina town how many pools already existed in Lahaina, and I think as we rebuild, I would hate for that number to increase. And if we're at this point where we're in this water crisis, it would be foolish for us to add any more of these. So as a community member, where would I start?
Okay. The whole team looks at me. I'm like, okay. Okay, Shane is going to try, and I will also tell you that that's a great
brought
question
this on yourself, Shane.
for our planning department as well for next week. Shane.
I'll take my crack at this, and Councilmember Paulton is not going to like this, but I suggest, that's a good point. I suggest you talk to Councilmember Paulton. No, seriously. She knows, she's up here already. But it's based on policy, right? We got to change the policy. I was at water at one point. I'm from Lahaina. I know the crisis. Makes sense. But we need to change policy if you guys want that to happen. And you guys got to voice your opinion.
I love that idea. I've been advocating to raise all the expenses in permitting for swimming pools every single year. This last year, I was able to get the votes to raise it, but I don't mind drafting legislation if that's what you guys want. But I need you guys to let the other 8 of them know, so that, because 5 is the magic number. And the first few times I suggested raising the fees on swimming pool fixtures, I had a lot of pushback, but apparently 3rd time's the charm, because they went with it this last budget, and I can up it some more. I forgot to mention October 15th is the mayor's budget hearing, so all your requests, speed bumps, playgrounds, all the things, quickly re-injection, distribution lines, all of it, October 15th, that's your date. And you can even say on October 15th, we don't have to raise the fees on swimming pool fixtures. He could suggest it, and then we just have to keep it like that. So October 15th.
So that was the mayor's budget community meeting we had mentioned next Tuesday, 5 o'clock, right? 5 o'clock here at the hall. Okay. Thank you for that question and suggestion. Thank you, Councilmember and Shane. Another question? I saw another hand up somewhere. Oh, here, it was in the front. Okay, Auntie first. She hasn't asked a question. Oh, wait for the mic. Wait for the mic.
Would that include street lights for Fleming Road?
Yes, come on October 15th and ask for street lights for Fleming Road.
Thank you.
Gonna be a busy night. Okay, your question, ma'am?
I had a question. Is anything continuing about the TVR situation, that we would have less TVRs and maybe more openings for local residents to live in?
It's continuing. The council hasn't gotten the legislation from the planning commission yet, but I heard that we can expect it coming to us next month. So we can't take any action on the legislation until we get it from the planning commission. So we haven't started to do anything with it. And then next month is an election, and then Christmas, and so I don't know. It depends on what committee it ends up in, and then I guess if all 9 people are coming back or not, and if the committee makeup is the same into the new term. So around when you get to November, time starts to slow down somehow in some ways and speed up in other ways.
Thank you, Council Member. We'll take a couple more questions. We've been at it for a little while. I know I thought I saw a hand on the other side. There we go. Cynthia in the back.
Since we're on the subject of water, I haven't heard from the mayor, been waiting, but we did hear from his staff last week regarding the return of a water wagon to the Lahaina Gateway Center. I know water's a big issue, but I've got family right now hunkering down in Florida because of what they're going through. We're pretty lucky. We haven't had any major hurricanes, but we still got less than 2 months to go. And I'd like to hear from the mayor why or why not we're going to have a water wagon returned.
I don't know why the water wagon hasn't returned. We've passed on your message to the water department. Maybe they aren't able to do it right now, but you've made it very clear and we've passed it on to them.
But you said you didn't need a board meeting or a budget meeting?
No, I
you
didn't
just
ask
had
for
to
one.
make a decision, right?
Yeah, we made the decision. We passed it on to water, and they're deciding whether they can do it or not.
So it's not your decision?
It was my decision to tell them what you asked for.
Okay, but...
You want me to tell them to do it, or you want me to leave it to them? Because I'm leaving it to them. Because I don't know what other things they got to factor in, whether they can provide it or not.
Well, for a year, 2 trucks were provided without any question.
That's right.
But now...
And what
like
they determined was there was no longer the same need for that. They made a decision that the use for that, I don't know how many other people are asking the same thing. I know you are. And they're making the decision whether or not that's the best place to put it or not.
Well,
it's
your
not a matter
staff-
of whether they know or don't know. They know. But they're going to decide if that's where it needs to be or not.
no water access during the fire and no water access now, unless you have a building permit.
I have seen a lot of people filling up at Hanako O'o showers. That's also a place where, I mean, I used to work there, so it happened
Yeah.
before the fire, after the fire, and that's an option.
That was the only place I've been filling up since August 3rd, because we don't have the water wagons or water access. I'm just talking about access. There's no water in Laniapoko, we know that. That's been for years, but I'm just saying, not just for myself, for my whole community. So it's hurricane season. I just think it's nonsensical that we don't have water access.
All the beach parks on this side, you can get water from the showers.
5-gallon jug, hold it up to the shower.
There is
'Kay.
also spigots.
Yeah.
There are spigots at the park, the lower
Only at
size.
Canoe Beach or Hanakao'o. Just saying, it would make it more convenient for the community to have water access, and it was very convenient. And I know your staff had suggested that when the water goes down, it becomes brackish. Well, if the water is going down, that means people are using it. So fill it up.
So I do know from the last request you had and a conversation I had with Kimo, and I know he was here last week, the deputy director, talking about how the water buffalo or wagon, whatever it's called, the last 3 months of its use, it was hard to use, so the quantity was pretty full, and then the park's water, including Wahikuli down here, started to become available. But I would tell you what we could do is inventory where that water is accessible, the spigots. I do know that some folks are just filling it up at wherever the temporary residential areas are now, at home, or if they're in a rental unit. So they're bringing their water that way. So that's been one way to gain water. And then, of course, the parks. But if we don't tell you what parks have the ability to fill those easier than the showers, we can come back to you next week and offer that. I think that's something very specific. So thank you for that.
I was just trying to help the whole community, not just myself.
Sure, sure.
Lahaina, I would just add one more thing in relationship to what Deputy Director Landgraf shared with us, is that water buffaloes are deployed for emergency purposes. Sometimes that's up in Kula when there is water restrictions or there's no water for some reason. And so they're deployed and for specific reasons in specific locations. If for some reason they're deployed, for instance, all on the west side or some on the west side, then they're not available for those emergency uses when it comes up. So I would just add that.
I believe he also talked about ability to get a water permit. I do know that they have about 200 to 300 water permits currently being reviewed, several hundred also in motion. So even though we recognize that a water meter will allow for more access, I think we can offer a little bit more information on what else and where else is available for access to water if you haven't had your permit yet, or if you're unable to fill any containers you need at whatever residential site you are current. Okay, so I saw a hand up here, Morris. Was that? Am I starting to see things? Oh, okay, here. Question in the front. Then we're going to take one more, and our team will be here for follow-up questions after. Ma'am, go ahead with your question.
This is for wastewater. And the question I have is when we build, we're in the process of getting our plans to rebuild our homes, and there's a lot of homes going up in Waikuli, and we know the sewer line will eventually come, but should we be making consideration, because we know the gravity lines are, the sewer lines are gravity fed, so my understanding was the neighbors above me will have to come down through my property to get to the lateral that will eventually go in. Do I need to be making some kind of consideration for that line before I set my house in a particular place? Or how do I know? I heard you guys were making a map of something, but it wouldn't be ready for months on end. But in the meantime, I see the homes going up, and I'm not sure what we should be doing about these laterals that will be coming down our property.
Yeah, thank you for the question. That's a great question. It's been asked before. I have been talking with EPA. So just for clarity, EPA has taken on the mission to design, permit, and get a shovel-ready project for Waihikulī. So they're taking that on. Once the design and permitting is ready, they hand it off to the county, and then it's our job to get it to construction. Now, to answer your specific question, in our talks with EPA, this has been coming up. So what we encouraged them to do was, as soon as you have the trunk lines laid out in Waihikulī, we're going to come to the community. In fact, we're trying to set up a community meeting for Waihikulī on subjects related to just Waihikulī. Get some community input on the trunk lines, because we understand we may impact certain lots differently than others. Get community input. Get it early so we can alter the design if need be. Your question in particular, if you're going in for building permit, we have discussed this at our infrastructure group. We're planning on doing an informational, maybe press release, or working with our permitting section to have a checkbox there, work with 4-Leaf DSA, the permitting section of the county, to see and notify people to make amends when you do your plumbing. Right now, we don't know what side that trunk line is coming in, right? As soon as we know that, we can share that with the community. Hopefully you have enough time to make amends. What I urge people to do is keep that in mind, what this woman has said. When you plan on tying back into like your cesspool or septic, again, we don't know if your sewer line is going to come in the street or in your backyard, but keep that in mind. There are options that you can build into your plans to connect later, like a little stub out with a cap. It'll make it easier to tie in once we know where the trunk line is. Unfortunately, we don't know where it is at this moment.
So my property, I'm not concerned about. I'm worried about my neighbor behind me. Will he be coming down through my property, or will he be forced to pump up to his street?
Right, and again, without knowing where the trunk lines are, I couldn't answer that. Once I can see a map, then we can go on a case-by-case basis and say your neighbor needs to go this way or needs to go this way. But right now, I can't answer that without a site plan.
But would you have a general idea of how big that easement would be? So I could at least put the easement on both sides of my house to know?
So it depends if that easement is for a county line or a lateral, right? So it's a little bit complex. The county jurisdiction ends at your cleanout, which is 2 feet from your property line. From then on, the plumbing is on the homeowner. If a homeowner needs to cut through your lot, usually the easement is between you and your property owner to give them access. If the county needs an easement on your property, you would grant that easement to the county, and that easement is normally 10 to 15 feet wide. And the reason is we need to get equipment in there in case that line breaks in the future to go in and fix it, right? So I hope that answers your question. If it's a county easement, 10 to 15 feet wide, if it's an easement to accommodate a neighbor that needs to cut through their property for their plumbing, then it's normally an easement between you and your homeowner, your neighbor.
So we don't know whether the county is going to require an easement through my property
At this
for
time,
my neighbor or not.
at this time, no. Once EPA's consultant, who they already have working on the design, once they come out with the layout of the trunk lines, we'll come to the community and say, this is what it looks like, and then you can ask the question then. But until I see something, I can't answer. I don't know where the lines are going.
Thank you, Shane. Thank you for that question. We're going to up here. I just want to remind you, Tuesday is a budget meeting here, and we have our prayer team there at the side table. If you want to get support, please do. Our team is going to be here for a while. Anybody leaving? Okay. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next week, Tuesday, and next week, Wednesday. Mahalo.